Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, or good night, depending on where you happen to be viewing this from. I'm Sean McCracken, the producer of MysteriousWV, and it once again occurred to me that I really haven't taken the time to address my subscribers and all of you directly for quite some time. I'll be quick because I know this is not an actual feature, and I've got two questions that I would like to pose to all of you, my subscribers, my viewers, and again, anybody who happens to be viewing this. First of all, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. So what I'll do, I'll go through the two questions very quickly, and then for those of you who are interested, I'll stick around briefly just to give some of you a little bit of a background into how the channel is conducted, maybe a little behind the scenes view, stuff like that. We'll kind of wing it. This is a little out of the ordinary for me. Normally I'm going from a script. This is totally off the cuff. Well, enough with that. We'll get straight to the two questions. I know that in the last month I have had a rather large influx of new subscribers, thanks mostly to L.S.L.S. There's no possible way that I could ever thank her enough for what she has done for my channel. To go from 10,000 to 24,000 subscribers in a month is rather extraordinary. Now, the two questions. I've received a lot of comments in many of the videos indicating that some viewers feel that I should cover cases outside of my normal territory, that is to say, outside of the state of West Virginia. From the beginning, that has been my primary focus. However, I know that since my audience has expanded somewhat, there might be an interest in seeing cases covered perhaps from these surrounding states, or from maybe 200 or 300 miles out. So, the first question, would you like to see cases covered from outside of the state of West Virginia? Now, there's another question that's directly connected with this because there's a lot involved with that. I stick mostly to my home state, particularly because the cases are close to me, both emotionally and geographically, but also because of finances. It's actually not that expensive to go out and cover these cases on site, in depth, with a lot of good research. But if I am to expand outside of the state and cover cases maybe in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, Maryland, maybe going into the Carolinas, that is going to involve expenditures. It's going to involve travel, probably an overnight stay. So, and the ad revenue simply would not be enough to cover that. So, if you would like to see me cover cases outside of the state, the second question is, would you be willing to contribute to a Patreon account in order to help me do this? To, one, offset the expenses involved in just covering the cases, and two, to help me make MysteriousWV my actual part-time job and allow me to devote more time to these cases, upload more frequently, and have better and more research, more footage, more photographs, more on-site coverage. Simply put, more time to devote to the channel than I am able to now. So question one, would you like to see me cover cases outside of the state of West Virginia? Two, would you be willing to perhaps contribute $1 a month in order to help me do this? In order to offset my current part-time job, I would probably have to have at least $800 to $1,000 a month to both offset the part-time job and cover the expenses involved in traveling to wherever I have to go, and to allow enough time to keep up the quality of the videos that are maintained by covering cases here in the state. Those are the two questions. For those of you who want to stick around now, I'll go into a little more detail as to why this is important. And you'll excuse me for just a second. My pipe has gone out. I'm going to have to relight it. And if you see cars and stuff going behind me and people perhaps looking in at me and wondering, what the hell is he doing? I'm not in my usual location, which is on location. I'm at my place of employment at 8:30 in the morning. One second. Venturing outside of the state would be a big step for the channel. From the beginning, 2 years ago almost, there were 3 criteria for choosing a case to be covered on the channel. One, and this has been broken once, one, it had to originate in and be inside the state of West Virginia. If it happened to go outside the state, that could be handled on a case-by-case basis, but it had to start here in West Virginia. 2, it had to be a case that was genuinely unsolved, not questioned. I make it a strict policy to not play Monday morning quarterback with law enforcement and question their decisions. So if there has been an arrest, a trial, and a conviction and incarceration, no, that is a case that I simply will not cover. I'm trying to build as much of a working relationship with local law enforcement as I can, and I just don't think they would respond very well if I started questioning their judgment. Me, a person who is not law enforcement and not even an accredited journalist, simply myself. And third, the case had to have enough material to fill out at least a 10 or a 12-minute feature. Now, going outside of the state and covering cases from perhaps the border states or going down to the Carolinas, I would want to maintain the same level of quality that you see in the cases that I have covered up till now. That is, I'm able to go to the location where the incident actually occurred, gather independent video and photographs, and do research close to the place where the incident occurred. To offer more on these cases than is offered just online, or at least any more than has been offered if the case has already been profiled by somebody on YouTube. I try to keep them as unique and as first person and first-hand information as possible. And I would want to continue that if I venture outside of the state. And you can hear cars starting to park in around me. We're getting a little closer to 9 o'clock, so everyone's coming into work. And again, they're all looking at me going, what in the hell is he doing? Is he talking to himself? Well, I guess in a sense I am. So, on that note, I thought I would give you just a quick little background into how these cases are covered. Right now, they are covered exclusively by myself. How they begin, I choose the cases from any number of sources. Early on, they could be chosen either from printed material. There are a number of good publications that cover cold cases throughout the state and the surrounding areas. Obviously, online, there is any number of sources indicating cases around the state, missing persons, John and Jane Does, unsolved murders to choose from. And once a case is chosen, I then gather as much information as I can about it from modern traditional sources, that is to say everything online, and I then go old school. Many of the cases do not have a great deal of information available online. They just have the bare bones. An example, the very first case that I ever covered, the Wetzel County Jane Doe, going back over 2 years now. It doesn't seem possible. Most of the information I got on this case came only from the Doe network, and it was maybe a paragraph of information. I then went to the state archives, where an archive of every newspaper throughout the state is kept, went back to the coverage from 1983, and found that there was much, much more information that was made available in 1983 that was not available anywhere online. And I knew just looking at those headlines, maybe after I re-edit this, I'll place a copy of it beside me, perhaps right here, so you can see what I was talking about. But I gathered the information old school, and that is on a microfiche machine, copying out pages of old newspapers. If the case is old enough, perhaps obtaining a copy of the death certificate. If I'm lucky enough to have law enforcement involved in the case and talking to me about it, if possible, I gather copies of actual police reports, autopsy reports. Now, this has been happening a lot more lately than it did early on. Even in that very first case, though, the Wetzel County Jane Doe, the officer currently in charge of the case, Corporal William Henderson, was good enough to spend at least, I think it was 15 minutes on the phone talking with me about the case, confirming information that I had already gathered, giving me his own opinion on the case, not really offering new information, at least not directly, but assisting me with in which direction to guide the feature. And this is something that I've attempted on just about every case since. I have reached out to law enforcement to see if they would care to comment on the case. And I would say in more than half of the cases, they have. And they've all been extremely nice and extremely receptive to what the channel is trying to do. So if any of you whom I have talked with in the past, Corporal Henderson, Sheriff Van Meter, Detective Bragg, Sergeant Henderson, any of you, thank you for all that you have done throughout the last 2 years to help to give the channel an extra layer of legitimacy and much more information. I made it a policy early on that I would not reach out to persons actually involved in the case other than law enforcement. I would only include their information or involve them in the piece if they contacted me directly. This has begun occurring more and more as the channel has grown. I think right at this point, 2 of the last 3 cases have been covered as the result of suggestions and with direct participation of the families involved. And the information that they have provided to me has enabled the features to be far more in depth than the early cases, when the information was gathered mostly from news accounts, from journalists who were involved in the case, and from law enforcement. So to the families who have either reached out to me directly at first or have commented to me online once they learned that the case was going to be profiled and have contributed their own information firsthand, first source, I thank all of you for helping to give the cases far more depth. You can obviously tell I'm going at this without a script. I've told a couple of you over the past 2 years that the reason I don't do a lot of off-the-cuff talking and don't do a podcast is because I unfortunately have a stutter that tends to come out when I'm trying to wing it. And you will probably hear that here much more than in the features. You're not going to hear it in the features. I edit it out or as much as I can. Once the information is gathered and I know the locations and the dates and the places involved, if at all possible, I go there. Just last night, I was down in, I'm talking to you now from Charleston, West Virginia. Just last night, after I got some business done with my income taxes, I drove down to Beckley, West Virginia to obtain footage in the town of Surveyor for my upcoming feature. And how that is done? Well, I don't have much of a budget, and the tolls on the West Virginia Turnpike have recently gone up to $4 each toll booth, so it's not cheap. I go to the locations involved, and I take out my camera, or cameras in plural, and gather still pictures and video as close to the actual location as possible. The main camera that I use is not a large professional camera. It is this, a Canon, I don't remember the exact name, I think it's a Canon PowerShoot. And it's particularly good because it has an actual optical zoom and not a fake zoom, which is contained in most cell phones. And that comes in extremely handy. However, I am a trained professional photographer by trade, so my SLR also goes with me. But I use this very sparingly because I found a camera like this tends to scare people away. So I do a lot of the coverage from either inside my car or from behind trees, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. Some of you might have wondered if I am actually a reporter or a private investigator. The answer is no. The only license that I hold in the state of West Virginia is that of an insurance adjuster. So that is treading right on the very outer edges of investigation. Another thing that I have tried to do in all of the features is to include what they call an opening stand-up and an opening a stand-up for the closing of the feature. And if at all possible, I try to do that at the location, or if not, at a location that strongly resembles it. The 3 cases that I recently profiled out of Charleston were easy enough because that's where I live. If it involves a case that takes place an hour or 2 hours away, I concentrate mainly on gathering still pictures and video of the location and not focusing so much on myself. And if the light is flickering on and off here, I apologize because again, I am broadcasting from my car and not from a controlled environment. When doing my stand-up, I learned from the very outset that you cannot record the audio directly off of your camera or phone. So I have a microphone attached here. I say not off of your phone. That's not exactly correct because it's being recorded on this, a Samsung Galaxy Note 5. For the longest time, that's how I recorded the narration as well. Now that is done with a little more professional microphone, which is about yay big, and I couldn't carry to work with me. Once the information, the footage, the still pictures, and all of that are gathered from the field, I then go online to find as many contemporary photographs of the area as possible, if at all possible, actually involving the incident itself. Barring that, pictures of the location or the surrounding area from the time that the incident occurred are gathered. And there's a theory involved in this. My main goal in producing these videos is to try to help the cases, if at all possible, to be solved, or at least advanced. And I can't go into detail, but there has been advancement made in at least 3 of the cases which you have seen. I hope to be able to bring you updates on them in the future, saying a person has been found or a criminal has been caught. We'll see where that goes. That would be my ultimate dream, is to be able to report to you not only progress, but a resolution of a case as a result of one of these features. My theory is that since most of these cases are going back 20, 30, and even 40 years or more, the best possible way to proceed is to send the viewer's mind back in time to the time when the incident occurred. Send them back to 1983, 1981, 1977, even 1990, some of the years from the cases that I have covered. My theory is that if you can send a person's mind back to when the incident occurred, you've taken the first step to helping them possibly remember a key piece of information. You never know when this is going to happen. And this was justified to me when I was in the process of gathering news footage for the Leroy Gorman feature. I was in the state archive with the head archivist looking at a piece of video from 1982, a piece of video that was taken by a local television station actually at the crime scene. And in the video was an image of a Charleston police cruiser, and it had its insignia for the time on the side. Now, when that image came on the screen, the archivist who was with me at the time took a look at it and immediately said, "Oh, I remember that. That's what was on the side of the cars at the time. Oh, I'd forgotten about that. I remember that. The insignia was very distinctive. It had a big sweeping C for the C in Charleston, and then in small lettering the rest of the word. But it's a logo that has not been used, I think, since 1982. But that image taken from 1982 instantly sent his mind back to the time and place where the incident occurred. Even though he was not there, it sent his mind back to 1982, and he then related to me a lot that he recalled from that time period. So I think that theory has been borne out, and I hope it continues to do so. So images from the time period that the incident occurred are crucial. Well, I've droned on and on here about the channel. I don't know really what else there is to say. Once the information is gathered, it is then accumulated into a computer. It is edited together. What I hope is appropriate music, background music, is then added under my narration, with my narration over top of images that I hope do a good job of telling the story from beginning to end. Many people have compared the videos which I present as looking a lot like Unsolved Mysteries. There's a reason for that. Not that I chose to copy Unsolved Mysteries, but that I utilized the format that they chose to utilize, the narrative format, which is more or less a takeoff, an extension of investigative local reporting, where you would have a local reporter at the beginning do a stand-up, introduce the piece, have maybe 2, 3, or 5 minutes of the story, maybe in chronological order, maybe not, and then close by saying, "I'm John Smith reporting from wherever. If you have any information, please contact our station." That was a format that was actually pioneered in the very early 80s by Crime Stoppers. And you'll hear them mentioned in quite a few of the cases because West Virginia now has a branch of Crime Stoppers. So I shout out to them whenever I possibly can. So it's a format that I use that I hope tells the story in depth from beginning to end in a cohesive manner with a summation at the ending. And that's the format that I chose because I think it best conveys the story in a manner that is both entertaining, easy to follow, and in-depth, allows for in-depth coverage. Well, I'm looking at the clock, and in about 10 minutes I've got to go in and do my 9 to 5. That's another thing that some of you may have wondered. In addition to this channel, and this is one of the reasons that if I'm going to branch out outside of West Virginia, I'm going to need more time and unfortunately some funds to help offset the cost. I work a Monday through Friday 9 to 5, and I work a 2 to 10 every Sunday. So I have both a full-time job and a part-time job, and I work on the channel whenever I have any spare time outside of the rest of my life, whatever that is, whatever life is. So that's how I proceed. What I would love to be able to do is to make MysteriousWV my part-time job so that I could devote far more time to it, increase the frequency of the uploads, the number of cases I can cover, continue to cover cases in the state of West Virginia, but also branch outside to Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Maryland, maybe even going down into the Carolinas. Not very far away, but there are other cases outside of the state that I would love to give some attention to. And I would want to give them the same quality of attention and coverage that I give to cases here in the state. So if you would like to see cases covered outside of West Virginia, please let me know. And if you would like to see cases covered outside of the state, please let me know if you would be able to contribute on a monthly basis to a Patreon account. Maybe $1 a month, maybe $5 a month if you can. The last thing I want anyone to do is to go into hock by sending money to me. But it would require additional time and additional funds to do these cases justice. Well, I've rambled on now for long enough, so for those of you who have stuck around through the end of this video, thank you so much. And a big thank you to all of my new subscribers who have joined in the last month. There would not be a channel without you. And even if you are going to choose to be a part of the channel by just viewing, thank you. Thank you all so very much. Those of you who have been with me for the last 2 years, thank you so much. I really never thought the day would come when I would look at the subscriber count and see the number 24,000. I won't go into what my ad revenue says, but I didn't think the day would come when I would look at it and see that number either. So thank you to, just a big thank you to everybody. I cannot say thank you enough. And a special thank you to L.S.L.S for her truly kind words. There's no possible way that I can express my gratitude to her in words that come out of a dictionary. So she is going to be sorely missed, especially by myself. She was my final inspiration to finally begin a true crime channel, to go forth and try to conquer these cases. So Kaylee, if you have stuck around through the end of this, thank you so much for being an inspiration over the last 2 years. I'm going to miss you a great deal, and good luck with the rest of your life. And again, to all of you who have stuck around through the end of this, thank you. And I'll be seeing you in the upcoming feature, which is going to be up hopefully in a day or two. I think it's, I've totally lost track of time. I think it's April 9th, today that I'm talking to you. I hope to have it up within the next 2 or 3 days. So tune in for that. And I look forward to hearing from all of you in the future. You'll be seeing me, I won't be seeing you. Thank you again to all of you who have tuned in and helped. And I'll see you in the orange coat. Have a good day, evening, night, morning, wherever you are. So long.